Okay, it's 2:59 and it's about to turn 3 p.m. in a very short while. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I would like to know how our sound is. Can you please type in the chat box 3 if the sound and video are okay? 2 if you cannot hear me. Of course, you cannot type 2 if you cannot hear me because you don't hear me. But people are typing in 3. Thank you so much, Ma'am Maria Carolina, Ma'am Lenny, Sir Mart. Okay, thank you. So that means our sound is okay. And if you are encountering difficulties, log out and log in again because everyone is saying the sound is okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Our session today is on discipline. But as you're going to discover today, we can stop disciplining if we know how to manage. So, this is about classroom management, really. And we're going to use as our reference a friend of mine who wrote, well, the friends of mine, husband and wife, Harry and Rosemary Wong, who wrote probably one of the most important books ever written on classroom management, entitled precisely First Days of School. Okay, that's their book. If there is only one book you're going to buy on classroom management, it will have to be this. And I brought the couple to Manila some years back, and they spoke to 7,000 teachers in SMX. But I couldn't bring them back anymore. One is because Harry Wong died last year. He passed away. May he rest in peace. But also because it's not very cheap. He would usually charge 1 million pesos per day of session. So I just reviewed the book, memorized most of the important points, and I'm going to share them with you so that we can be super successful teachers. That was how he entitled his seminar in SMX. Okay, that's what we are after, and that's why we are here for. And I'm going to share with you, like what we did in the past sessions, very concrete strategies um, by which we will be able to manage our class. Okay? Now, let us take a look first at some warning signs of bad teaching. One of the things I mentioned, that I remember saying it twice already, one of the main reasons why teachers leave the profession is when they lose control of the class, when they become tired, exhausted, exasperated, disciplining students, and they don't follow, they don't obey. That was the last topic that we covered. Now we're going to answer the question. So, Dr. Rentoy, how then do we manage the class effectively? How then do we discipline the students so that we are able to make them do what we want them to do without you ever having to resort to shouting, screaming, and yelling? But maybe classroom management might not be the problem. There might be other problems. And here, according to Harry Wong, are possible warning signs that poor teaching is happening. Number one, if the teachers so little knowledge of the subject matter that they are supposed to be teaching. And it can happen because minsan nangyayari to sa eskwelahan. Magbubukas na yung school year, biglang nag-resign ang isang teacher or biglang nagkasakit. And suddenly, Mrs. Batong Bakal has to be told, Mrs. Batong Bakal, I know your expertise is math, pero can you handle this uh, English class of Mr. So and so who cannot make it? And so Mrs. Batumbakal goes to a classroom to teach a subject that really is not her expertise. Or it can happen in a school na nagtitipid yung eskwelahan. So, um, bibigyan ng load ang teachers kahit na hindi nila expertise yon because cutting down on faculty, on teachers. It can happen. It happens. And so what happens? The teacher goes inside the classroom and tries to teach a subject that he or she has little knowledge of. Poor teaching happens there. Number two, lacks basic academic skills. Kahit yung basic English, very poor. Paano ka magtuturo ng magaling na social studies? Or even worse, English ang class mo, pero bako-bako ang English. Maraming grammatical errors. Number three, holds low expectations for students. Yan. The worst thing a teacher can say entering the classroom on day one is, class, kalahati sa inyo dito, babagsak. Low expectation. You know what will happen? The students, your words are going to be prophetic because your expectation of them is they're going to be poor, they're going to be slow, uh, doing poorly. That's your expectation. That is what will come out. Number four, makes little effort to maintain discipline. Yan. Students are complaining. Hindi ko nga madinig yung lecture ni ma'am eh. Ang ingay-ingay ng classroom ko, ng classmates ko. And ma'am, sir, cannot control them. And the teacher makes little effort to maintain discipline. Why? Because she's a new teacher. Natatakot siya na pagka pinagalitan niya ang estudyante, baka biglang sumagot yung students. Baka biglang, the kind of defiance, no? Na pagka pinagalitan mo ang estudyante, aba, ang sama ng tingin ng student sa'yo. Parang ikaw pa yung may mali. Parang ikaw pa yung masama when you really just want to maintain discipline in the class. So, some teachers, never mind. Bahala kayo mag-ingay dyan. Basta ako tatapusin ko itong lecture today. Ayaw nyo makinig, ha? Pues, babagsak kayo sa test. Bahala kayo dyan. Matulog ka kung gusto mo. Little effort to maintain discipline. Number five, does not focus on academic goals. Number six, number six, cannot communicate knowledge in an interesting way. So the students are complaining. Ang boring, boring ng teacher, boring ng subject, because the teacher cannot present it in a interesting way. Number seven, gives disorganized lessons and vague, careless assignments. Iniisip ng mga bata, hindi ko nga alam kung bakit pinapagawa sa amin tong assignment eh. Parang hindi naman connected dun sa ni-lecture niya. Parang hindi naman ito connected. Disorganized, vague, careless assignments. Kasi minsan may mga ganyang teacher, magbibigay ng assignment para lang masabi na nagbigay ako ng assignment. Or to keep the students busy. It can happen. It happens. Number eight, does not assign homework on a regular basis. Number nine, is not aware of your students' strengths, weaknesses, and interests. Number 10, shows little enthusiasm for her work. Pagka ganyan ng teacher, yung pag pumapasok ng classroom, para bang she is entering a torture chamber. Or para bang he is dragging his feet. Para bang minsan sasabihin ba, kung hindi ko lang kailangan ng sweldo, hindi ako magtatrabaho dito. Little enthusiasm for her work. Number 11, belittles the efforts of the students. Number 12, shows no interest in communicating with parents. Poor teaching may be happening there. Especially for teachers na ang tingin sa mga parents, kaaway, kalaban, people in the other side of the fence. Poor teaching may be happening there because to be a successful teacher, we have to be reaching out to the parents who are the primary educators of their children, who are the ones at home who can supervise their kids in doing the assignment at home, finishing the assignment, studying at home. If we don't reach out to the parents and the parents do not supervise their kids, the children can be playing computer games the whole weekend and they come to the classroom on Monday, hindi ginawa ang assignment. Kahit anong pagalit mo sa bata, that will not work unless the parents at home supervise, follow up, check, and even teach hard work, patience, focus, perseverance, grit, resilience to the kids. We can only do so much, teachers. Wala tayo sa bahay nila. Once they go out of our classroom, we need the parents to be the ones to supervise, to discipline, to manage. We have to reach out to them and make them collaborate with us. And finally, number 13, exhibits unsound character or unprofessional behavior. Poor teaching is happening there. And all the 5 seminars we've had so far, the past 2 weeks, precisely this is one of the major points, ideas. We are not just here covering the curriculum. We are not just here teaching a subject. We are forming character. And the most effective way is to do the powerful example of our own sound character, professionalism, professional behavior. But if we don't exhibit that, we're teaching in the real sense of the word, teaching and learning, education, which is not just about academics, but it's about becoming a good person, there we can fail. Okay? Harry Wong talks about the 4 stages of teaching. Sabi ni Harry Wong, teachers go through these 4 stages. Stage number 1, ito yung fresh out of college, first year teacher, mag-uumpisa pa lang, and some of you have been teaching for some years, naalala nyo nung first time kayong nagturo? The day before the first day of the school year, planchado na yung susuotin mo. Hinanda mo na yung, pati yung jokes na sasabihin mo. Pinagpaguran mo at ginawan mo ng exciting unit plan, lesson plan, may motivation pa. Tapos meron ka pang hook. Ganyan, ano? And ang kala natin, the students will love us and will have us as their favorite teachers. Yan. Di ba? Nung batang teacher tayo, when we were starting, ganun ang isip natin that we are going to be the best teacher, the favorite teacher of our students, that yung bang pagka sinabi natin, okay class, time is up, class, I will have to dismiss you. Ang isip natin, sasabihin ng mga bata, no ma'am, we want more. We want more. That's the stage called fantasy. Fantasy. Ang kala natin, ang mga bata, they are going to be like that. Makikinig sa atin. Lagi. And they will uh, look at us, see us as their favorite teacher. Fantasy ends the day you enter the classroom and the chairs, the rows are in disarray. There are trash on the floor. Students are noisy, laughing. They see you entering, they continue laughing, they look at you and they continue talking with each other and as if you do not exist. There goes fantasy. And what happens next? You will have to shout and scream to get them to go back to their chairs, to align the desks, to pick up the trash. And that's the beginning of the second stage called survival. Sabi ni Harry Wong, And then you continue teaching because you're a good person. You really want the students to learn. And then you start learning, ay, if I do this, makikinig sila. If I do this, they get bored. You start learning the tricks of the trade. You start learning better ways of doing things, of being more in control of the classroom. And that's the beginning of the third stage of teaching called mastery. You start developing skills to be a master teacher. You start learning more effective ways of handling the students. But today, we are not just going to settle for that third level of teaching, the stages of teaching. We want to go for the fourth, the highest level, which is impact. That we will be able to make an impact in the lives of our students because we are not just going to teach a subject, we're going to form character, mold minds. Those, according to Harry Wong, are the four stages of teaching: fantasy, survival, mastery, and impact. Okay, there is a very important teacher magazine for teachers. It is called Educational Leadership. It is the best magazine available for educators. And they made a 50-year study. They studied spanning 50 years, interviewing thousands of teachers and students. And they asked them one question: what are the top traits of effective teachers you have had, you have seen? And here are the top three traits that came out. 50 years spanning, 50-year study, and the top three traits that came up. Number one, an effective teacher is a good classroom manager. Let me see. I'll just take a bit of break. I have to open the door for someone. I'm going to show you a video.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me though was when I was about 10 years old and I was in school and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start. Tapping, and the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." And so I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me. And he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
That's a very inspiring video of a teacher who managed to make an impact in the life of that drummer. Clint, you are not a problem. You are a drummer. So here are top three traits that came up in that 50-year study. An effective teacher is a good classroom manager. And it's true. It's not the classroom. Kasi kahit sa ilalim ng puno ng santol, students can be learning if the teacher knows how to manage the students. Even if the classroom is not air-conditioned, kung magaling ang teacher, pwedeng matuto ang mga estudyante. That's the first. That's the number one trait that appeared in that 50-year study. Here's the second one. The research showed that effective teachers, they design lessons to reach mastery. Kaya hindi ako fan ng mga teachers na nagsasabi, kalahati ng estudyante ko sa class babagsak kasi mataas ang standards ko. Sabi ng research, no ma'am, hindi mataas ang standard mo. Hindi ka marunong magturo for the students to reach mastery. Because an effective teacher designs the lessons for the students, not just to understand the lesson, but to reach mastery. And finally, number three, an effective teacher, sabi ng 50-year study, has positive expectations that students will be successful. You look back at your best teachers, favorite teachers, teachers who really made an impact in your life. That's true. Good classroom manager. Yung bang si ma'am, pag pumasok pa lang ng classroom, tatahimik na lahat. Wala pa siyang ginagawa, hindi siya sumisigaw, hindi siya nagagalit. Pagpasok pa lang ng classroom, we all keep quiet and listen. And we do not dare break her rules. That's the best teacher we've ever had. Those are the kind of teachers that we've had. And then, sabi rin natin, ang subject, ang hirap-hirap, pero dahil napakagaling ng teacher, natutunan ko. I learned the subject, even if it was very challenging, even if it was very difficult. And yes, I was motivated because the teacher had positive expectation. She always believed that we could do it, we could succeed, positive expectation. Okay, sabi ng research, scientific research, the number one factor governing learning is classroom management, not discipline. Kasi kahit anong unruly, rowdy, noisy ang class, pero kung magaling mag-manage ang teacher, kaya niyang disiplinahin ang mga bata. And it's not discipline as in terrifying, terrorizing, scaring them, threatening them. Like yung example ni ma'am kanina, pumasok pa lang si ma'am, tatahimik kami lahat. Hindi siya nagagalit, hindi siya sumigaw. We just keep quiet because she knows how to manage the class. It's not about discipline. It's not about self-esteem. It's not about motivation. It's not even the class size. It's not even that you come from a middle class family kaya discipline. No, the classroom management ability of the teacher is what will enable us to learn. Now, let us differentiate. Discipline is not the same as classroom management. In fact, Harry Wong said, stop disciplining and start managing. Harry Wong said, you don't need to discipline if you know how to manage. Let that sink in. You don't need discipline if you know how to manage. Stop disciplining and start managing. Okay? Disciplining is keep quiet, sit down, sit up straight, get out, go to the principal's office, stand at the back, face the wall. Yan ang discipline. Classroom management, on the other hand, is when the teacher simply raises her hand and the students know that they're supposed to keep quiet. Classroom management is when the teacher does the number one, number two, number three, and the students know number one is arms forward, number two is management. That's what we are going to learn now. And the best way to manage a class is to have procedures and routines. Procedures and routines, not rules, but procedures and routines. So, rules are like you should do this, you should do that, you should, or else. Yan, di ba? Rules are like if you break this rule, may consequence. I will punish you. No, Harry Wong said, rather than talking about you should do this, you should do that, clearly define your procedures and routines. What is our procedure if we want to recite? Do you want the students to just raise their hand and wait to be called? Is that your procedure? Or kasi kung wala kang procedure na ganon, then the students will do whatever they like. Sir, ma'am, because you didn't explain the procedures and you didn't practice it and you didn't make it a routine. So, procedures and routines, that's the key to classroom management. Let's define procedures. What you want students to do. Routines. What students do automatically. Okay? And what we have to do during the first days of the school year, the first days of school. Kaya pala yun ang title ng libro ni Harry Wong, because those are the most crucial days when we teach students procedures, that you make them do them, the procedures, over and over and over again until they become routines, automatic. They start doing them automatically. So, sabi ng research, the number one problem in the classroom is not discipline. It is the lack of procedures and routines. Why are those two students always talking noisily, disturbing the others? Because maybe you do not have a procedure about if they need to converse with each other, if they are sitting in your classroom listening to a lecture. So, procedures and routines. You can have as many procedures as you want for as long as you teach them to the students. And here's something that many teachers do not do. Rehearse them with the students over and over and over again until they become routines. Okay? These are not rules. Procedures are simply what you want students to do, what we want students to do, how we do things here inside the classroom. This is our procedure. For example, here are some procedures you should teach students and rehearse with them over and over until they become routines. What is your procedure? If you want the students to pass the papers, what is your procedure in heading of papers? Do you want them to write their name? Nickname, family name, or complete name? Do you want them to put the date on the other side? Do you want them to put the subject on the other side? Do you want the what is your procedure? That is a procedure. And you should be teaching that at the start of the school year so that after 1 week, students will not have to ask, Ma'am, do we need to write our names? Ma'am, do we need to write the date? Ma'am, do we need to? No more. You taught them the procedure in the first days of the school, first days of school, and you make them do it over and over until it becomes a routine. Roll call, entering the classroom. If they're late and they need to enter the classroom, what is your procedure? Do you want them to knock 3 times and wait at the door to be acknowledged before they come in? Or do you want them to go to the principal's office to bring a like a permit that their tardiness, being late, is a valid reason, or there's a valid reason? What is your procedure if they want to ask a question? What is your procedure to start the class? What is your procedure if there is no teacher inside the classroom? I have a procedure when teacher is not in the classroom. Okay, class, here's the procedure. We have a set of class officers. If the bell rings and there is no teacher, president, vice president, secretary, you come forward. President and vice president, you stand in front of the class and take over the order. Secretary, you will go to the office to inform them that there is no teacher. Okay? So that is our procedure. Let us rehearse. For example, the bell rings. What do you do? And then you see the class president and president going to the front of the class, the secretary going out. Very good. We will practice that again later. So I have that procedure. Kaya when the bell rings and there is no teacher, my class does not turn into a zoo, which is what happens in some classrooms na walang procedure. Nagring ang bell, walang teacher, that's when trouble starts many times in classrooms. Students start shouting, screaming, yelling, jumping up and down kasi walang teacher, kasi walang procedure. Passing in papers, for example, this is a classic case. Kung wala kang tinurong procedure, what happens? Okay, class, time's up. Pass the papers forward. And you know what happens? Students will not put their pens down and pass the papers forward. Some of them will continue answering, and they will not submit the paper until you get angry, you get mad, and you say something like, paper's not in at the count of 5. I will not get any more. Because you don't have a procedure. And Harry Wong says, pass the papers forward is one of the worst ways to collect papers, because you know what happens? The people at the back will try to pass their papers forward kasi sabi mo pass the papers forward, but the person in front of them is still writing. So hindi niya nakikita na yung nasa likod niya nagsasubmit ng paper. So what will the other guy do? Kasi hindi nakatingin, hahampasin niya ng papel. Uy, pass na raw, sabi ni ma'am. And the guy in front na hinampas ng papel, magagalit. Ano ba? Hindi pa ako tapos. And you have the whole class erupting into chaos, noise like that, simply because you said, pass the papers forward, and they're not following the procedure kasi wala kang procedure. Here's a better procedure according to Harry Wong. Don't tell them pass the papers forward, because the people in front do not have eyes on their back. They cannot see kung nagsasubmit. What you will do instead, Harry Wong recommends, especially kung yung chairs mo are arranged by rows, tapos may aisle sa gitna, you will say something like this. Okay, class, at the count of 5, you see, you value time. You don't want to waste time. That's why you're going to say, okay, class, at the count of 5, all papers to the aisles. Okay? And we rehearsed it. I taught the students to do this. We rehearsed it over and over. until it becomes a routine. 5. Yan. I'm going to start counting down. 5. And the people in the end rows know that they are supposed to already be giving their, pag sinabing 5, they're supposed to be passing their papers to the person to their left, if the aisle is on the left, to the person to their right, if the aisle is on their right. 4, that means the second person now is passing on the papers to the person next to them. 3, 2, yan. You see, I said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because that's very clear that you're only giving 5 counts. If you start counting 1, 2, 3, yan, meron ka pang 4.5, 4 3/4. Di ba? Minsan ganyan na yung mga ibang teachers. Ano? No, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because you value time, you want them to follow the procedure. Okay, class, let's practice it. You see, this is the problem with some classrooms. The teachers teach the procedures, but they don't rehearse. Harry Wong said, rehearse them, make them do the procedure over and over until they get it right, until it becomes routine. Okay, give back the papers to the owners. Let's try again. Okay, class, at the count of 5. 5, 4. You notice John not following. Don't get mad. Don't get angry. John is simply not following the procedure. So all you have to say is, John, what's the procedure, please? He will pass the paper. Thank you. Day 10. Okay, class, at the count of 5, all papers to the aisle. 5, 4. You notice John, again, is still writing, is not passing. Don't get angry. Don't get mad. John is simply not following the procedure. He is not breaking your rule. He is not challenging your authority. May ganyang teachers minsan eh. Pag hindi sumusunod ang mga bata, sasabihin nila, John, are you challenging my authority? No, John is simply not following the procedure. It is simply not a routine for him yet. So it's enough to say, John, what's the procedure, please? Let him do it. Day 200, final exams. At the count of 5, all papers to the aisles. 5, 4, and John still does not follow the procedure. Don't get angry. Don't get mad. It's enough to say, John, what's the procedure, please? But at least you never have to shout, scream, or yell. You never have to lose your patience. Procedures. Here are more procedures you should teach your students. How do you end the period? Yung mga napapanood yung movies sa Netflix about American classrooms, pag ring ng bell, biglang takbuhan na yung mga bata, that's a poor classroom management. That's a poor teacher. Ineffective. I will not allow that. Okay, class, we have a procedure to follow for dismissal. I will be the one to dismiss you, not the bell. Okay? So what is our procedure? Before the bell rings, I will ask you to stand by your desk, align the chairs, pick up trash on the floor. We will clean the classroom before we leave. And then we will do the end of the day prayer. And even if the bell rings, that's not your teacher. That's not the authority. I am the authority. My procedure is what you will follow. And you're not going to go out of the classroom until I say goodbye, class, and you answer goodbye and thank you, Dr. Rentoy. That signals dismissal. You may go. Not the bell, not your other students running in the corridor. I give the signal for you to, and we follow that procedure. What's your procedure if a student wants to participate in class discussion? Do you allow them to stay seated as they answer? What is your procedure? When a student needs to borrow a paper or pen, let's face it, you and I also experienced that. Nawala yung ballpen natin, kinulang tayo sa papel. So, it's not lack of discipline. It happens. But do you have a procedure if a student needs to borrow? If a student, okay, here's a very important procedure you should have: coming to attention. You want the students to stop talking because you need to make an announcement. Kung wala kang procedure, ineffective teachers resort to all sorts of tiring things. For example, the teacher enters the classroom. Yung students galing sa PE, maingay, hyper, and mabaho, galing sa ilalim ng araw. Pero maingay. And the teacher needs to announce something. Wala siyang procedure. So what does she do? She has to shout. Kasi kailangan niyang labanan yung ingay ng mga bata. Kasi wala siyang procedure. Kung hindi pa rin tatahimik, hahampasin yung blackboard. Kung hindi pa rin tatahimik, papatay-patayin yung ilaw to catch the attention because she does not have a procedure. Here is where you should have a procedure. If you want the students to come to attention, to keep quiet and come to attention because you need to announce something. Okay, class, here's our procedure. If I need to get you to keep quiet and to pay attention, I'm going to stand in the middle of the room and I'm going to calmly raise my hand. When you see me with my hand raised like that, it means stop talking, even if you're in the middle of your sentence. Tap the back of your classmate if he is looking the other way and point to the teacher to signal that teacher is asking us to come to attention. And you also raise your hand, and you're not going to put it down until I put my hand down. That's the purpose also of when you see me in the middle of the classroom raising my hand, stop talking, raise your hand, and wait for the teacher to put his hand down because he is going to announce something. That is our procedure. The purpose of the raising hand is para yung mga hindi nakatingin, they're looking the other way, they will see you raising your hand like that. They know that it's a signal. The teacher is there asking us all to keep quiet. Okay? If you have that procedure, it becomes a routine. It's very easy to get people to keep quiet so that you can talk. You will not have to shout, keep quiet, go back to your chair. Listen, I need to say something. John, what are you doing there? No, nothing like that. Calmly raise your hand and people will start keeping quiet. In the beginning, it may take them 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. But as it becomes a routine, in 3, 2, and 1, you have them quiet. I once was invited to speak in St. Paul, Pasig, and it was an activity of students, uh, student leaders, and journalists coming from the 52 campuses of St. Paul system. And they were there very excited. It was the day one of the 1 week seminar that we were supposed to give on writing. And then in the midst of that, here came Sister Teresing, Sister Teresa, and the principal went to the middle of the stage and calmly raised her hand like that. And in a matter of few seconds, the 2,000 students who were there, excited, noisy, boisterous, suddenly all quiet because they know the procedure. It was a routine. Sister did not have to shout or scream or yell. All she did was calmly raise her hand. Now, sometimes that system may not work perfectly well, especially if you're like me. I make my students do a lot of paired discussion, paired sharing. Okay, get a partner, sit wherever you want in the classroom to discuss the question until I say it's time. Okay? Now, they are all over the classroom. They're seated there at the back. Calmly raising your hand like that may not work because they are not looking at you, they cannot see you. So I have the bell method. Okay, class, here's the procedure. If I ring the bell, I would have one of those small silver bells. If I ring the bell once, I'm going to count three, two, and one. By the time I reach one, I need you to stop talking, keep quiet, and look at me. No need to stand up. Just look at me because I need to make an announcement. Okay? Now, let's try it. Let's rehearse it, get a partner, sit wherever, discuss what I did last summer, what I did last break, and wait for the signal. And then you make them go, get a partner, they start talking. When the noise level is up, you ring the bell and you say three, two, and one. When um, if somebody is still talking, don't get angry, don't get mad. Simply say, Joanna, what's the procedure, please? Joanna will stop talking. Thank you. Let's try it again. Exchange now. The other partner will tell the other person what he did last, etc., until it becomes a routine. What is your procedure to get the students to come to attention? When you're absent, well, similar to the earlier example, what do you do if there is no teacher inside the classroom? How do you want, what's your procedure if you want them to work cooperatively in groups of five, in groups of three? And what is your procedure if you want them to change groups, etc.? And you can have as many procedures as you can ever imagine lining up to go to the canteen? What is your procedure to go to the assembly? What is your procedure to going back from the chapel, from the auditorium, from wherever? Do you do the one, two, three? Do you do the? You can have as many procedures as you want for as long as you rehearse them. Don't just teach the procedures, rehearse them over and over until they become routine. I repeat, procedures are not rules. And that's the big difference. Rules are like a threat. You better follow these rules or else. May consequence. Procedures, on the other hand, is simply what we do, how we do things here. That's what procedures are, which we teach and then which we rehearse. And research says it's the procedures, the setup that set up the class for achievement to take place. Okay? So then, once and for all, you can solve that discipline problem because now you can get students to do what you want them to do, following the procedures without ever having to get angry, shout, scream, or yell. So then, however, it's also good to have rules. It's also good to have rules. But the rule about rule is there should only be enough rules that they can memorize. Kung hindi nga nila ma-memorize ang rules mo, how do you expect them to follow them? So, sabi ni Harry Wong, rules, there should only be enough na kaya nilang by heart remember. 3 to 5, nothing more. And in my class, after I learned Harry Wong's system, I always had only 3 rules. No unnecessary noise, no unnecessary movement, come prepared for class. And in the beginning of the school year, I would explain to them what those rules mean. So you should have a discipline plan. And the discipline plan should have 3 parts. Many schools, they only have 2 parts. We have these rules. And if they don't follow, these are the consequences. Penalty, punishment, detention, Saturday detention, suspension, expulsion. Ma'am, what if they follow your rules? Anong consequence? Wala. E di hindi ako magagalit. E di walang mapapagalitan. E di walang punishment. No, sabi ni Harry Wong, there should be positive consequences. So here are, for example, list of positive consequences according to Harry Wong that can make the students do what you want them to do. Because sabi ng research, students will more likely be willing to follow your rules if they're working to get a reward than to avoid a punishment. For example, I'm going to highlight here the reward of I'm proud of you. That doesn't cost a centavo and it doesn't eat up much time and it doesn't get you tired. I do a lot of that when, for example, I make my students do a report presentation. At the end of the presentation, I will say something like, this is great. How I wish we can show your report to other schools or to other students because it was fantastic. I'm proud of you. That's a reward because they came prepared for class. Remember, rule number 3, come prepared for class. Here are more rewards, for example, that you can think of. Some of them apply to kinder. Others can be used even all the way up to graduate school. Okay? Now, here are some examples of negative consequences. And some more examples of negative consequences. Some applicable to preschool, others applicable even all the way to graduate school, and more negative consequences, which most likely are in fact in your student's handbook. Suspension, expulsion, dropping from the rolls, non-readmission, they're most likely all already in your student's handbook. So, but in my classroom, only 3 rules, and I explain what each of them would mean. Harry Wong said there should be more rewards than penalties. Okay, now we have last few minutes. I'm going to share a few concrete strategies in classroom management. Sabi ni Harry Wong, dapat daw ang classroom management seminar should be held in ballet studios. You know, yung ballet studio, dance studio, where you have glass mirrors all around. Because one of the most important strategies we should perfect is yung tinatawag na the stare. Yan. Yung example that I gave to you earlier. Bakit may mga ganong teachers? Papasok pa lang ng classroom, titingin pa lang sa estudyante, students keep quiet. They don't talk, they keep quiet, they listen, they pay attention. It's because these master teachers have developed the stare. Yung bang titingin lang sila sa mga estudyante, the message is already very clear. Oh, come on, guys, I expect best behavior. You're more mature than that. You're not kids anymore. Come on, I expect best behavior. The stare. Pero sabi ni Harry Wong, we need to look at our face in the mirror because minsan yung stare, yung ating tingin may look like galit. Yung bang para bang ang mensahe na pinapadala ay mga hayop kayong bata kayo, naiinis na ako sa inyo, saang impyerno kayo galing mga bata. That kind of message, no. Um, Rather, when you look at the mirror, look for that perfect stare that gives the message, oh, come on, class, I expect best behavior. We're going to work together here. I want your success, but you have to cooperate. All those can be captured in the perfect stare. And that's why we have to try to learn. Ano yon? How does that perfect stare look like? That's a concrete strategy. Here's another one, the check system. Harry Wong principle. Do not waste academic time in order to discipline. So, itong mga sit up straight, eyes on the board, face here, stop talking, listen. Those are all wasted time. And those are things that will make you very tired. Kasi nga naman, at the end of the day, you realize you said 50 times. Sit up straight, eyes on the board, stop talking, listen here, quiet. You have to develop a system where you don't even have to say those things, but John, Joey will follow. And here's how it works, the check system. And you will explain it, and you're going to stick to the system. And I'm so happy to hear Harry Wong, si Ron Clark, Hal Urban, some of the best teachers in the world use this check system. Okay, class, here's how it works. I gave you the 3 rules, right? If any of you chooses to break any of my rules, I'm going to put your name on the board. No punishment. It's just a warning. If you choose to break any of my rules, if you choose to break my rule or one of my rules a second time, I will put a check mark beside your name. It means you're going to spend 5 minutes detention in the recess, in the lunch, or in dismissal time, whichever is going to come up next. A second check beside your name written on the board will mean 10 minutes of detention. If a third check mark appears, come back on Saturday for detention. If a fourth check mark appears, I have to write a fourth check mark because 5 times you chose to break one of my rules. Then I will have to call your parents to tell them that you have incurred these 4 check marks in our period today. Okay, so here's how it works. I'm lecturing. Let's say my subject is English. Okay, class, subject verb agreement. If the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb should be plural. And then I noticed John and Joey talking. They chose to break rule number 1. No unnecessary noise. I don't stop my lecturing. I just look at John and Joey and pick up the marker or chalk and write their names on the board. John and Joey will see that, and they know that I am giving them a warning because they have chosen to break one of my rules. No punishment. It's just a warning. But I didn't stop. If the subject is singular, the verb is singular. However, class, there are some subjects that are always singular. For example, someone, something, somebody, anyone. And then I noticed John and Joey for the second time talking. They chose to break again one of my rules, no unnecessary noise. I don't stop my lecturing. I just go to the board and put a check mark beside their names. And I continue lecturing. You see, I didn't eat up academic time. None of the John, Joey, keep quiet, stop talking. Kanina pa kayo dyan ah. How many times do to tell you? Nakakaistorbo na kayo ah. Pagbuhol-buhulin ko kayo dyan eh. That's very tiring and that's useless. The John and Joey will just be full of resentments. And the beautiful thing about the check system is I never have to stop my lecturing. And moreover, they know the consequence, they will do it. And many times they will make sure they don't get a check mark. As soon as they see their name written on the board, they will behave, they will make sure they do not break any of my rules. And I don't get tired. And I don't waste academic time. And I am able to make them do what I want them to do without even having to stop teaching. The beautiful thing about the check system is at the end of the class, I'll take note of the names written there and if there are check marks, but I erase them because the next time I enter the classroom the next day, everyone has a fresh new start. None of the marks of yesterday or the previous class. Okay? It works. It works. And it's very fair because you don't punish right away. You write their names as a warning. You give them a warning first. So, when you are able to download the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share with you, you're going to see there a few more other strategies for disciplining, but no, not disciplining, managing a class. Let me now first share the link to claim our certificate for today. Kindly please click on the link and start filling up the evaluation form or the form. And I'll give you time once you are able to receive the certificate in your inbox. Let me just